You have your application ready to go and you don't know how to bring your application live on the internet. This video is for you. We are going to deploy a front end with AWS. This is a very straightforward tutorial that is going to show you how to deploy your Web3 application, or it can even be a Web2 application. It doesn't matter. All we are going to do is we're going to build in AWS a virtual machine. We are going to set up that virtual machine and we will allow access from the public internet onto that virtual machine. Not only that, we are going to be buying a domain name and we are going to point that domain name to our web application. So users just have to type the URL name, press enter, and they are connected. 3 easy steps. Deploy the AWS virtual machine. Step number 2, we're going to prepare that virtual machine and we will run our Web3 application. Step 3, we are going to buy a domain name and we will attach that domain name to the web application instance in AWS. So users, all they have to do is type that .com and they will land right into the application. All right, let's go ahead and let's make this happen. So we start by opening an account in AWS. We have to build an account and then from there we can deploy our instance, okay? I head to aws.amazon.com, right? And then we'll go into the account. If you don't have an account, you have to create one. Sign in. Once you are signed in, we then head onto the console, okay? From here is where we deploy what we need to run in the AWS cloud. So in my case, I am going to be launching an EC2 instance. So this is going to be a virtual machine. Just gonna click on that. We have a wizard that is basically going to tell us, what kind of operating system are we going to run, what's the VM name, etc. Okay, so let's start. We are going to be calling this the DeFi staking. So we are just going to bring live the DeFi staking dApp to AWS. So I'm going to say DeFi front end, okay? So just call this front end because it's just the front end, okay? Cool, now we're going to be working with Ubuntu. So I'm selecting Ubuntu. We'll leave everything else default. I'm using the free tier option, okay? So we're just gonna leave everything default. This is where we have to build a key pair. Okay, so in AWS, in order for me to connect to this instance, I have to build a key pair. With this key pair, I am going to access the instance and I can do my configurations and do the deployment, okay? So let's go ahead and click new key pair. So let's create a new key pair. We're gonna call this DeFi key pair, okay? I'm just gonna call this DeFi key pair. We're just gonna do an RSA key and we'll do PM format, okay? We'll create that key pair. Has been created. Now I have to grab the key pair file and we are just going to create a folder called key pair and we'll drop the file there. So let's go ahead and do that. Just pasted that. So I just went to my drive and added the key pair file, okay? Perfect. So we have that key pair file ready to go. Now I just need to make sure that whichever folder I added that key pair, I'm gonna access that folder so then I can invoke the key pair file. So I have that. And then from the network perspective, this is very important because from here, I am going to allow access onto this machine. So, which means that I have to enable at least SSH because we're going to be consoling onto the Ubuntu shell over the internet, okay? But we don't want to have access from every IP because then we'll have unauthorized users or attempts from the outside world onto the machine trying to connect, okay? So from there, we can say allow SSH traffic, but from where are we going to allow it? In my case, I am going to allow it from my public IP, and there's going to be an entry, and you're just gonna see this all blacked out because again, this is private info, but you'll see my IP. So you select my IP, and remember, this will only allow access onto this machine from this public IP. So if you move somewhere else, you're not going to be able to access it because you need to go back and log in onto the AWS console and then add that IP, that new IP, okay? All right, but it's very secure, okay? And that's about it. After that, I am going to here, there's nothing else that I have to add, okay? Beautiful. So let's go ahead and launch instance. I'm just going to click launch instance right here. And boom, okay? So let's wait for that. Once this is done, now the machine is going to turn on. And from there, I can do the remote connection via SSH using the key pair, okay? Okay, so if we click on instances over here on the left side, you can see that my machine is still booting up or is still being prepared. Boom, and the machine has been turned on. Okay, so now one thing that I want you to pay attention is this public IP address that was assigned to it. This is the IP that we need to make sure that we point our names, or in this case, if you bought a .com, if you bought a .io, whichever is the record that you bought, you are going to be associating this to this public IP, and we'll do that in a second. I want to connect because we have to deploy the instance. I am going to connect and I want to deploy that front end. So I'm going to do connect to instance, SSH client. And now right here, you can see that AWS is providing us the entire syntax that we need to paste on our terminal so that we can connect there. But remember, it's looking for that prepare file. So now I have to navigate to that folder, then I can paste this in and connect, okay? So let's do that. I'm running Windows, so I'm gonna be using PowerShell. So whichever terminal you have, I'm gonna clear the console. Let me maximize a little bit more. I'm gonna do now cd key. I'm going to clear the console one more time. And this is where, if we do list, you can see that the file that I downloaded from AWS is here, okay? Let me show you back. We click here, we can copy that command and paste that there, and we should be able to connect. Boom, there you go. And we are connected to the instance. Awesome. First things first, elevate ourselves to super user. So we want to update Ubuntu to make sure that we have all the packages that we need and everything is up to date, right? So we're going to type apt-get update, okay? Once we are done, we'll do apt-get upgrade and we'll install. Once that's done, we will proceed to install Node.js. Okay, it's asking me for which services should be restarted. I just leave it as default, and I'll press OK. And good. Okay, so we're done. I'm going to just clear the console. Now I am going to install Node.js. So let me show you. We have to head over node source, and from there we can install the Node.js library and enable the Node.js instance. So for that, we're going to head to my browser. I'm going to go to Google, type node source. And then we're going to head over the node source Node.js binary distributions. Once in the distribution page, we are going to head over the Ubuntu version. So we're going to click on Ubuntu versions. And from there, we are just going to install it following the instructions here. So first thing is that we have to run all this, right? And we already did the update, but it won't hurt to do it again. So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this, right? And we'll head back on my console, go ahead and paste, press enter. And that should be it, okay? Actually, it's saying that I want to override because I already installed it here, but I just want to show you, so I'm just going to override, but you should not see this, okay? Awesome. So that's done. So let me clear again so everything looks good. Go back. Now the next step, it's asking me for the Node.js versions. The distribution or the repository is asking us to create this local variable that will be used to execute this echo shell request, okay? So in my case, I want to install 18. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just copy this. Going to head back here, and instead of 20, we're going to add 18. Beautiful. Now I can effectively copy that line, this line right here. Let me go ahead and copy this whole line. Copy it. I'm going to head back. I'm going to paste it, and that should be it. Now we'll continue. And now finally, we can go ahead and run this, okay? So we can just enter this, and I already did it, but if you just press enter after pasting those two commands that you see right here, you should get the Node.js installed, okay? So I already did it, like I mentioned. So in my case, I did all this, so I'm going to do the following. I'm going to validate that I am running Node.js, and you can see that I am. Just type node-v, and I see that I'm running version 18. And again, we're working with the Amazon, the AWS instance. So now I can do the following. I can either import a repo that already has the project built in, or if you're building a brand new Next.js instance, I can now create that instance, okay? So you can see right here that I'm navigating or I'm interacting through this path, which is the home folder and then Ubuntu, right? So I can do the following. I'm just going to head back into the home folder, type ls to list, and I only see the Ubuntu folder. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create a Next.js instance, okay? So for that, I am going to, once again, clear, I'm going to type create next app, and we're going to call this Web3 Live, okay? I'm going to press enter. And now it's asking me to install the following package. I'm going to say yes. And it's asking me to use TypeScript. Again, we're not going to do anything with the project instance, so I'm not concerned about this. I just want to show you how can we bring this whole thing live. Tailwind CSS, no, no apps router, and that's it. Once that's done, you can see that the instance will be created here in the Web3 Live folder. That's the folder name of the project. Okay, awesome. So we have the Next.js project ready to go. We'll type clear once again. So if we list, we should see the project folder. Awesome. So let's navigate to Web3 Live, right? I'm going to clear once again. And now I can run the instance. npm run dev. Okay, beautiful. Because it's active. Okay, now you can see that it's active over this port. From AWS, I need to allow that port in, else we're not going to be able to talk to the web front end. We're not going to be able to reach the web front end from the internet up to the cloud because this port, it's not open, okay? By default, AWS is not going to open the port. And if you remember, it is exactly what we had to do when we first deployed the instance in AWS. We had to enable SSH, port 22. We had to put that specific rule to only allow our source IP, the public IP of our machine, to access it, or else everyone on the internet is going to be able to access that. And we don't want to. But in this case, we want to because this will be the web front end for all of our clients connecting to the application. So let's go ahead and head back into AWS. And we are going to navigate over security groups. So we're going to land in the security group section, and you should see that on your left corner down below here, you're going to see security groups, okay? If we see that, we are going to then navigate onto the wizard security group name. So this will be the security group that will be created once you deploy the instance. Else, you can reuse a security group that you previously did. But in my case, I did a brand new, and you saw that I did a brand new instance, and it also created that security group. If we navigate to that security group, let me see if I can edit the inbound rules, and I'm going to show you. If we navigate and edit that security group, you're going to see that we build that rule. This is, quote, a security rule. We only allow SSH access to allow us to do this connectivity, to connect and console onto this instance, okay? I now have to do the same thing with port 3000, which is the port of this particular instance, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new rule. So I'm going to add a new rule. I'm going to say 3000 here, because that's the port that we want to allow. And remember, we're working inbound, which means that from the internet inbound onto AWS, okay? And in this case, onto this particular instance, because this security group is tied to this particular machine, okay? So with that said, now that we mentioned port 3000, you now can see here that the source of that traffic, it's what? It's going to be the public internet, which means it's every single available IP we want to allow it. So we head over here and we see that we have anywhere IPv4 or IPv. Most of the time, I'm going to say 99% of the time, you're going to be dealing with IPv4. To be safe, you want to also add IPv6. So that will allow you both IPv4 stack and the IPv6 stack of public addresses on the internet. So in my case, I just did IPv4 on this one, right? I am going to add another rule, and we're going to do the same thing, port 3000, right? And now we're going to be adding IPv6, and we are effectively covering every single public IP. And this is going to allow all users to hit that port, okay? So we're going to save rules. Done. So we did all that. Now we should be able to hit this application. So if we go, remember the public IP, okay? Remember that public IP. When we navigate over the instances, we can scroll here, and we can see that is attached to the launch wizard 2. That was the security group. And now we have the public IP. This is the address of the instance, the public address. If we go under our browser, right, we just copy this thing, Control C. If we open a tab and I go over that IP and paste port 3000, we have the application live on the internet, okay? So our NextJS instance that we just deployed is live on the internet. Awesome. Now, that is if you're building a brand new instance, right? If you're starting to work on the new instance and you're starting to add all of the components, add everything, most of the time, you're not going to do this on the live production server. You're going to be doing a git clone from the repo onto the machine. So let's do that, okay? So let me go ahead and do that. So what we need to do, I am going to clone one of my demo tutorials. So let's clone the DeFi staking application that we not long ago did on this channel. So what I'm going to do, onto my GitHub, right? So I'm going to scroll here. Let me go to my GitHub. And let me go under that repo. And we're going to build my DeFi staking app. And all I have to do now is under the GitHub repo, I'm gonna copy this path, which is my Git instance, and from there I can do the clone. Okay, so I'm gonna copy it. Now let's go under my shell. I'm gonna Control C to cancel this. I'm gonna clear. And now what I gotta do, first of all, I have to navigate out of the Web3 live folder. So I'm gonna say Control CD ... And now I am going to clone that instance. Okay, so I'm going to say git clone, and now I'm going to paste that URL. I'm going to press enter, and boom, we have successfully cloned that repo onto the AWS machine. I'm going to clear once again, and if you now list the contents, now you see the DeFi staking dApp folder. What I have to do now, I am going to do this. I'm going to say build, okay? And if I list, once again, I'm inside the folder. That folder that has all the front-end files is the final folder, okay? So if I go into that folder, right, let's say list, you can see contracts and front-end. We don't want to leave all this in the instance. All we want to have is the front end, okay? So for that, I have to do the following. I'm going to clear once again, right? And I am going to grab this entire path, which is all the way to final. Inside final is the front-end folder. And we want to pass that out of this folder into the home folder, okay? So we don't have all that. We're just gonna move from final, we're gonna move front end onto the home folder, okay? So now I'm going to grab this all here. I'm gonna right click, and this will copy the contents. And I'm going to say move MV, you can see it right here, MV, then space, then the source of the path that I want to copy. Now I have to specify from the final folder, the front end. So if you tap, you are going to autocomplete that. And now it's going to ask me if I press space, now I have to tell Ubuntu where do I want to send this front end folder to, okay? In this case, let me just minimize a little bit. In this case, I am going to be passing this onto, again, home, and that's it. That's all I have to do, okay? I'm gonna say front end, and that should be it, okay? Boom, done. Okay, so if we go back, let's go back, ls, now you see the front end has been moved here. So if I navigate to that, I'm gonna say cd front end, ls, boom, that's the front-end instance. Awesome. I don't need now this folder. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to remove that folder. I'm going to delete it. So I'm going to say rm recursive. So this is the dash recursive. I'm going to right click and oops, I got to obviously specify the path. So I'm going to say home and that should do it. Okay, so I'm going to clear once again. I want to list and let me go back and make sure that that folder is out, and it's out. Awesome. So now let's go back to the front end. So I'm going to say cd front end. Now I can say, because it's a new instance, I have to install dependencies, which basically what it's going to look is for that package JSON. Okay, so this is automatic. I'm going to say npmi, and it's just going to install all the dependencies and allow us to run the application. Okay, it has been installed. Beautiful. Now if we list, we have everything there. Now we should be able to run this instance. So let's run it. And now it's running. Okay, now let's go ahead and head over this URL, but using the public IP of the instance in AWS, and we should be able to see the application live. Okay, so let me go there and let's grab that public IP once again. Okay, so I'm going to copy this address. And now if I go to my browser, I paste the public IP, the port. Let's see. Here we go. We're seeing something. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we got the server up and running. Now, here's the thing. Now it's even asking me to connect my wallet and all that. So we know that the server is live on the internet. Okay, we want to buy a domain name. Let's buy the same. Let's buy N2D. Okay, and what we're going to do, we're going to forward that to this IP. So then when someone hits n2dex.com, it lands on this IP. It lands on this page. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. What I'm going to head to GoDaddy, and you can use any other provider, right? I'm going to say GoDaddy. And I am looking for that. I'm going to be buying this live right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to type n2dex.com. Let's see if that's available, which I think it is. It is. Okay, so let me see if how much it's going to be, because this is like a 3-year term. I'm just going to try to buy it only for 1 year. Okay, so let's see. And let me go to my cart. And right now it's 3 years for 43 bucks. If I go 1 year, it's 12 bucks. I'm just gonna do 1 year. Okay, so I'm gonna continue the cart. So no, I don't need this. No domain protection, no professional email. And then continue the cart. That's there. We're buying this domain. And that's about it. I'm gonna pay it. Boom, you're not gonna see that address. I'm gonna complete my purchase. Woohoo! So we just bought n2dex.com. Okay, so now that I have the domain, I am going to connect it. Okay, so let's connect this to AWS. So we're going to be connecting it to that IP. So I'm going to continue. And I want to skip all this. I'll do this later. I'm going to click there. Now that I'm in the GoDaddy page and the page to manage my domain, all I have to do is forward this request to this address, to this public IP that we have here. Okay, and the public IP is 34.224.85.37. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this entire URL, including the port, because we have to forward that request to that port. So we're going to go back into this GoDaddy page. So let's say if I go to the dashboard, right? Let me just go in case you lose or you don't know how to get here. So if you open and you log into your GoDaddy account, you should be able to see the ones, okay? If that's the first one, then there's only one, okay? So in my case, I want to forward this request to AWS, which is what's running right here, okay? So I'm gonna say in DNS, I'm gonna hit DNS, okay? And under DNS management, forwarding. So let's go ahead and click forwarding. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to say forwarding. So I'm going to hit domain. You have subdomains, but in this case, we're just fully forwarding the domain entirely. Okay. It's asking us if the site is HTTP or is HTTPS. For now, it's HTTP. But on another video, we're just going to cover how to put a certificate onto the website. And it's highly, I think, no, it's mandatory. I'm going to say it's mandatory because we want to protect the session between the user and the server, okay? So that's it. All I have to do now, I am going to be pointing HTTP, and all I have to provide is that IP. So this will be my public IP of my AWS instance, right? And the port that NextJS is running. It's going to be colon, it's going to be the port. And if we go back to my instance, that's the public IP that you're going to see here, right? So you can see the public IP of this instance right here. So back in GoDaddy, I'm just pointing it there. Permanent, and we're going to save it. Okay, if we do permanent, this is more for the search engines. Okay, so the way that the search engines will index that website, it's depending on how do you set it up. We're just going to set it permanent. I'm going to click save. Boom. Awesome. Now we just need to wait for this to become online. Okay, it usually takes like 5 minutes, but there's cases where it could take a little bit longer. Okay. So let's just wait for that. Let's take a look and see if it works. So I'm just going to head over here. Let's type the domain dex.com, and let's see if we're lucky. And here we go. Beautiful. Awesome. So we have that ready to go. Okay. So we still see that it's pointing to an IP. How do we fix that? We can do a masking. So when we go here, we can mask that. So by masking, we're just going to cover the public IP, and instead we're just going to show the URL, or in this case, the domain name, which is n2dex.com. Okay. So if we say here, we're just going to say DeFi staking front end, and that's it. You don't need to type descriptions or keywords, and we'll save. And it's going to take a little bit more time, but now instead of me showing the public IP of the server, it's going to just show the name, which is what we want. It's going to take a little bit of a couple of minutes. And that's it. That's all we have to do. And we have the application up and running in AWS. Okay. On another video, I am going to cover the same thing, but instead of us using the cloud, we are going to be using a bare metal server, which is basically a physical server that is going to be assigned to us. And the benefit of going that route is you have one fee, just the server cost. You can deploy as many servers inside that physical server. Inside that server, you can deploy as many virtual machines as you want, or containers. And we're going to be working with containers. If you have a bare metal server and you deploy the VMs, you're only paying for the bare metal server, and you can be running multiple machines on it, okay? Depending on the specs, okay? That's it for this video, and I hope that you learned a lot. And if you did, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more amazing content.